of matter. And this episode is something that I have been planning to do for quite a while, and I wanted to study a little bit more about the person before I get right to it. And I will bring it in the context, okay? First of all, let's go and do a little bit of focus of what point of view of what point in time are we looking at the topic. So this is Jupiter day, benefic day, expansive day, moon hour with ascendant in 11th degree. Not everything can be perfect. Of Sagittarius, that is ruled by this Jupiter in the first degree of Gemini, and the midheaven is Mercurial, 23 degrees Virgo, with Mercury on the 23rd degree of Taurus. So I had a feeling that Mercury must have left the 22nd degree because it wasn't like coming up for this. And the moon is in Pisces, 9 degree. Now, I have been mentioning the times right now where we get a lot of attempts to dismantle certain people at decision-making processes or political figures and so on, due to the changes that are happening with the World Health Organization and the WEF, okay? Because there is an attempt to make one global government that would take away the power basically of the people as well, but also of the leaders. And some of these attempts to dismantle, we've seen so much as assassinations, but another form of attempt to dismantle is to put someone through 9 hours of juristic debate and to not let them finish when they argue, which is what happened to the person I'm about to discuss, which is a very interesting person. And this is a person for whom, first of all, I like this person, okay? Doing what I do, this is the kind of things that I like to see. There's a person, surprisingly politician, that is doing something very similar to what I do on this YouTube, but with a lot more elaborated effort and funding. And that is, if you had to make a list of words and cases where if you tackle this case, if you tackle this word, if you bring this up, you would get shadow banned and cancelled. This man has tagged it all. So he has tagged the story for exposure, a ritual child abuse, not just jurisdeming, but also jurisdeming, ritual child abuse, the type of stuff that nobody talks about. He's brought it to discussion in the parliament. Totally resisting WHO, totally resisting the vaccination. Okay, during COVID, he greeted a fellow parliament member with a friendly hug and kiss, and it was not in the context of sexual harassment. It was in the context of no masks on. We don't abide by our policies, and we don't accept your emergency situation excuse to take our liberty, our rights from us, okay? And this is happening again in the Netherlands, which were many lockdowns and forced vaccination and whatnot. So that's, and if that is not enough, so of course he was supporting the farmers, where he said, no, we're not going to take all this land, where, you're not going to take all this land, you're not going to confiscate all this land. Yes, I need to know where was he on this, because basically what he's not on the 15-minute city agenda. Okay? It was against the measure to limit reactive nitrogen emissions, which would affect farmers. So not to confiscate land from farmers in the name of whatever, greenwashing. So this is a man who pissed a lot of people off. Fortunately for him, he doesn't have a 22 stamp in his name. Have his descendant in heaven. Don't have time. But what he had been going through is, yes, 2 days ago, 9 hours of trial. Last time I watched 9 hours of trial was when they discussed the giving the right to appeal for Julian Assange against the extradition sentence by US, which was successful. The Royal British court says to United States, we don't believe you. And so the trial against Gideon van Meijeren, who is from a political party, yet another freedom is FVD. Here you have a F instead of a V. So Forum for Democracy. And it's the party he represents. And, right, is this? Yes, okay. And what he's been put up against, because he called to resist. And he's doing nothing, in my opinion, nothing more terrible than what I say on YouTube, yes? Which is invoke the second to Americans, which is, yes, we have not only right but duty to resist oppression of our rights. And if Parliament is selling the country out, then it's okay for people to go on the Parliament. Yes? Now, there is a big question of what's after, okay? Because in the name of this battle between the global and local forces, there can arise tyranny. So we have to put that kind of on hold. But definitely, we're discussing today a chart of a person that stood up against, from within the structure, stood up against very forcefully, very forceful powers, global powers. They're calling to enslave humanity and literally calling it out, and fortunately still alive. Okay? So let's take a look at the chart. Now, the first thing that pops up, and I always look at the outer planets first, especially when I don't have heaven. The first thing that pops out is this Jupiter in 18 degrees Taurus. Okay? 18 degree is the degree of poison and a medical warfare. But look what he did with this 18 degree. Look how a person can take something that is malefic in essence, it's toxic, and turn it into a completely different road. Okay, so if what I'm trying to do with the 22nd degree is raise awareness of prevention of assassination and slow-mo execution of people, of intentional killing, is for the 22. For the 18th degree is a degree of medical warfare. And so I deal with the lethality form of medical warfare, but it's also the fact that toxins make your life worse. And in the name of this pandemic, that pandemic, your freedom is taken away from you. And so this is very compatible with Jupiter 18, okay? Jupiter 18 is tending to the topic of where medical warfare is used to give people toxins rather than to give them medicine. And that's kind of popped up. Jupiter is also associated with children, and indeed he talks about, and with religion, he talks about child abuse, ritual abuse of children. Now, just for you to understand how brave this person is, okay, and how unique he is, not only in Netherlands, but in the entire political arena, an entire social arena, in the entire public figure arena, okay? This is a person who managed to get into the system where usually you have to do certain crimes on camera, including to children, in order to get a rank, okay? And this person, I don't know how, managed to get where he is, but still not partake in a ritual abuse. And we don't know, okay, we don't know, beseder, but to bring the topic of ritual abuse, okay? And what is ritual abuse? So I want to take you back to Anneke Lucas, who has been through this. There are, of course, expandable children, which Ronald Bernard talks about, where there is child trade, trafficking, and or the organs of the bodies of the infants, they are traded. So this is a part, but also with ritual, there is expandable children, but they can die in those rituals. And then there are the children that are groomed to be child spies. So basically, they traumatize the children, but later they treat the child well, but in a way that is abusive. Okay, what is well in a way that is abusive? Okay, they don't outright torture the child, but they put the child in a situation where they learn to develop their voice. And Anneke Lucas put naked in a group of people, and the people were kind of worshiping her. But the science was that when she naked, her vocal cords would begin to develop, and she would have better training, vocal training. So it was for her to sing well, to be like a little siren. If you look at the industry, film industry in the United States, in the child prodigies, in the film industry, so something like that. And those children would meet politicians and public figures, and she was programmed to basically, she would become what she needed to become in front of this person, and it was genuine. And these people, they didn't trust anybody, maybe they were also ritually abused, and they would be erotic, they would rape it's statutory rape, right? It's you understand, it's not sex. And then they would expose certain informations, they would talk to them and so on, and then she would be programmed to go back to the handler and to tell everything to the man who is the handler. One of her handlers, is the man who abused her, basically also helped her out of and saved her from this project. And so she would say, she says, I'm looking up to these people, these politicians, because they make big decisions, but also looking down at them because of what they do to children. And so we must understand, it's very likely that these politicians, they were also taken by the bloodline, and we understand that the funding for politicians, yes, it comes from the church, from Obday, which is mingled with the Luciferian churches, okay? So it's not two entities, that is Christ and Antichrist, with money, okay? It's one entity, is Vatican, and that is something that we really need to understand. Even the rich, the wealth families, like the Jewish families and so on, that are said, oh, they are the richest, and also, even if it's true, they cut dividends for the church, and they're operated by this secret society, kind of like the Rosicrucians, from which we had like Illuminati, Masons, and whatnot, and fraternities and sororities. So it looks like a big, diverse, multipolar sphere, where in fact, when it comes to the money time, it all summons up, okay, to the pyramid in the Vatican. And from Brussels, they would bring in of which ideological people they are identifying with, which is the people that support infanticide, child brides, multiple women, and so on, as with the Mormons, and that would be Islam, okay? And so we cannot talk about what's bad with Sharia laws without what's bad with Mormons and what's bad with the Opday. And this is financially challenging. I talked about this earlier. And here we have a politician, Dutch, that is in the system, representing the party Forum for Democracy, and bringing up child abuse to the topic. So both exposing again bringing up the issue of the mink, again bringing up the issue of ritual child abuse to the parliament. Hey, there's this thing going on and we need to stop this. Where we know that he is talking to a room, a camera, okay, for a parliament where very likely people who sleep with these children and maybe will torture themselves are sitting and listening. So how does this miracle happen? We don't know. And yes, let's begin to observe. First of all, it has a Mercury 25 degrees Gemini, conjoining a 27 degree Chiron in Gemini. So Chiron, I'm a fellow Chiron in Gemini. I was born a bit earlier than him. Then I would have it in 1 degree Gemini. He has a 27 degree Gemini, right on my IC actually. And so the conjoining of Chiron, ruled by Mercury, and Mercury the ruler, makes this person very aware of the difficulties that children have, the many difficulties that children have. I don't know in what, how was he exposed to the topic, but it makes him very aware of how does child abuse affects childhood, affects language acquisition, affects speech, and Mercury is children, is technology. It's really about all of that. So that would make him know what he's talking about. Okay. Not necessarily that happened to him, but he was exposed to this topic at some place in his life. And this Chiron is also with Venus, retrograde in Cancer. Venus retrograde is a more reflective phase of Venus. Venus is our values, and the retrograde phase is where we rethink our values. So this is a Venus that is not immediately seeking to connect with everyone like the Venus direct, but is more about contemplation of the values, and that can help to make him stand out in the crowd where he's contemplating on the values. He doesn't just mingle where he could be associated with groups that, and so it gives a certain place where this person can be more comfortable perhaps with a state of contemplation rather than a state of connection for Venus. Now his moon in Libra, it means that he recently had the eclipses with Ketu on the moon. So something that he had to let go of. Yes, for the sake of politics, it means that the eclipse affected him personally. And indeed, the topics, with the coming elections, with the WHO, he became a figure. It was almost like a hero, a growing hero, that is asking to be at the point of releasing, rethinking how we think about justice. And that affects him personally. 9 hours of trial where he's been bombarded with questions, but not really allowed to finish, not really allowed to speak. And why he was trialed? Because, of course, yes, he called for people to even go up to the parliament. And there was comparison to the calling of Donald Trump for people to go up to the parliament or to the White House. But in this case, it was not go up to the parliament to choose him, but to go up to the parliament to resist the WHO. What is happening the day after the revolution is something that we don't know. But we know it's a much needed revolution, okay, that resistance in this case is appropriate, but not according to those people that sold the countries, that's the nation states. And this is why the Ketu, in general, the eclipse of Ketu in Libra is Ketuing the juristic system, which is exposed. We see that with Hag. Everybody is aware now of things that they didn't know about the juristic system. They ask, where is the international law? And finding out that a big reality check on what the law can and cannot do, and calling for change. So we are purging the old way of balancing things, also in terms of heuristics. And there we see this man. We both see, the incidents of like the trial of Julian Assange, where the British Royal Court says to the United States, we don't believe you. Okay, this is for the history books. And then we have a sentence that's more difficult to bring on the history books because it's happening in Dutch, and it's 9 hours, where a man stands and calling to resist oppression, to resist enslavement of mankind, to resist medical welfare in the name of medicine, to resist emergency situations, to not comply and not confiscate land that will not be used for the people. Because you and I are not going to live in these 15-minute cities. Yes? Who will? Maybe those who can afford, but the rest will die. Nobody would house you there, and if they do, then you will be so sick that you would want to die. And so this is how that moon applies to those set of eclipses. Here's Mars in Pisces, 3 degrees Pisces. And I don't know which malefic. Is it malefic insect out of sect? I would need ascendant for that. But he's conjoining, is very close to Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut has the deeper intuitive knowledge about things. It's the knowledge is that it's like diving to the bottom of the ocean, and what you see from there, you don't see up to the surface. So he sees, if people look at the tip of the iceberg, he sees the entire iceberg. That's how it is. And with Mars, he acts on this. So this is where this man is taking action to resist a global enslavement of mankind. Okay? This is what this Mars in Pisces does. And he is expected to have a Rahu return when in 2026. So if before the eclipses with Libra Aries, I was like, hey, look at Netherlands, look at Geert Wilders. And indeed, Geert Wilders was rising. I don't know who's the chief spy that they put there. I must check this. It's so fascinating. And that was Geert's idea. So the man is entertaining. I mean, he's a genius. He's a media genius. But here we as we move from the eclipses with Libra Aries, we're going to be moving towards the Pisces. So all the Pisces ascended sun and moons, but also the people are going to have a Rahu return or Rahu reversal. or nodes reversal going to be prominent. This person, Gideon van Meijeren, is going to be even more prominent as to 2025, 2026. I might not be able to broadcast this because I have ascendant Pisces, okay? So he has Rahu on my ascendant. Not on my ascendant, a couple of degrees away, but it's a tight enough orb. But I look at it now and I say this person is going to have a brand new beginning of 18 years cycle fulfilling itself, and this is on the axis of the mutable signs, where it is in a square relations to the axis of 2030s. Basically, his Rahu and Ketu are in square relations to mine. Rahu in 6 degrees, 7 degrees Gemini. Okay, so I'm the first to talk about 2030 out and loud because it's going to be my nodal reversal. Yes, I had my nodal return during COVID, and he's about to have his nodal return 2025, 2026. So there's a square relations. I have a lot to learn from him. And I should be, yes, looking. It's important to my growth. And there's friction because he's maybe operating within the system, outside of the system. And so he made a very obvious call, which is basically if I had to translate it to American, invoke the second. Your rights have been violated, the social contract has been violated, invoke the second, and it's worldwide and it's true. The social contract is not some philosophy that they no longer teach you when you go to the university as well. This is important because you need to know this. You need to know John Locke. You need to know. You wouldn't understand a North Korean leader talking about the Jeonshae, and now it's translated to English without understanding John Stuart Mill. And you think, oh my God, this is John Stuart Mill applied. Yes, but they won't let him do it because the funding and the cult requires him to do something else, and that something else is North Korea. But if you look at the emails that Assange leaked from whistleblowers who leaked Hillary's emails, you would see that Kim Jong-un, head of North Korea, had an American citizen prisoner in his country and is begging for Hillary Clinton, would only meet Hillary Clinton, begging for Hillary Clinton, come, release this person, just promise me you won't invade my country and you accept me as the head of state, okay? Don't try to replace me, don't invade my country, come, please take this person. And Hillary actually in this case was okay, she's enabled pedophilia in other cases, but in this case she was okay. And she is trying to go over, the Congress is waiting until Kim Jong-un understood there's no one to talk to. Okay, so basically we have the head of the most scary state in the world begging to release a political prisoner back to the United States. Begging, please, just I want to make sure you don't kill me and you don't invade my country and take this person out, he's American. But not allowed, not happening. Even Hillary Clinton couldn't do anything. Okay, this is why WikiLeaks is important. This is why journalism is important. And this is why we need diverse funding for this journalism, because Assange can leak about United States. How would we have other leaks about other countries? We need diverse funding. And so when we are talking about the call to resist oppression, it is not an extremist call. It is within the Declaration of Independence for Americans. It is within the social contract. It is within the UN. It is within the international law. Basically, it's what we should do. We should not allow oppression to be. But this is being compared to Donald Trump calling for people to, go and raid the White House or raid, because he wants to be president. Yes, one thing where it's like we all should resist this oppression, but then we also have to be aware of the day after the revolution. Okay? When you make revolution, what happens the day after the revolution? Is Gideon van Meijeren a leader of the revolution or a leader also of the day after the revolution? And here I actually am looking at a Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus vicinity here. He has Saturn close to Uranus, 1 degree away from Uranus. So first of all, Uranus on the anaretic degree. Yes, but this is 59 minutes, so it's either on 0 degree Capricorn or the anaretic degree of Sagittarius. And anyway, it is conjuncting Saturn in 0 degree Capricorn, which the best analysis would be this the Uranus Saturn conjunction with the archetype of Capricorn. So Uranus Saturn conjunction, first of all, as a lover of philosophy of science, if I had to say for which person will invent with a new field of study, of philosophy, of applied science, I would say it's the person with the Uranus-Saturn conjunction. For this person, one of the people we have with the astrological community with this conjunction is Caitlin Kopak. She has it in Sag, next to my midheaven. And this is why when I got her talisman at Tema Mundi, everybody were like, I'm nice synchronicities, everything is lovely. Me, it's like, up day, this, that. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Well, it's on my midheaven. That's what's up. And so it's not even the Sima Mundi. It was actually her conjunction, and she built the astrological magic using materia that is not like a rock or a stone, okay, where you would engrave a certain election of astrology in a stone, and it's this talisman. There's a very, very meticulous ritual to do these things, and she took and she simplified and she made this with like oils and body butters. And the reason she did that was because she was comprising the chart of the birth of the universe, okay, for the magical birth of the universe, birth of the world. And this is the Thema Mundi chart. If you will look at Michael Jackson's Dangerous album, you would see a lot of occult symbolism, the earth, where you see the earth. If you look at the WikiLeaks symbolism, you see the earth, okay? This is use of Thema Mundi. I tell you that, okay, after having this, and yes, I have had synchronicity of this, as this was in the making, but I did not know what am I receiving. It was eclipsed. It was fated for me to be working with Tema Mundi. So the magician who made it with, let's say, a butter and oil. Why? Because the way for you to make this is that you make Venus in Libra, then you make Saturn in Capricorn, then you make this, then you make that, and you have a ritual that you combine them together into the Tema Mundi body butter, Tema Mundi oil, okay? That took both the traditional Saturn of what is traditional astrological magic and the innovation, the Uranus, the Eureka, and to have an enduring rebellion until she did the birthing talisman, which is the Tema Mundi, and the many things that she had to endure. But this is developing a whole new science. And of course, on the way, everybody started making the same products and so on. Whereas where she was just starting, people were abandoning her. And this is where you have a person that comes and makes an innovation in the field of science that's going to stand the test of time. Okay, I was lucky enough to meet a person who is doing that, who's in the process of doing that. Also with birthing, by the way, but it's in Jupiter. Jupiter's to do with children. And I had the honor to give her consultation. And so she was learning, and she's going through the process of combining the holistic and shamanistic and birthing and the knowledge for like being nurse or the medicine and so on and so forth. And this conjunction is basically creating a new science. So that tells me that we must not look at this person as just the leader of the revolution. In my opinion, this is how I read this. This is a person where he has a lot to say, and I don't know him too closely. Like, I just watched a little bit here, a little bit there. It's like, oh my God, he's bringing this topic to the parliament. Wow, this genius! I have to watch it, but not much more. And in my opinion, this is a person who is going to revolutionize structure. It's going to revolutionize structure, but it's also a revolution that stands the test of time. So this is a person where he has this Saturn that can take him all the way through the revolution and endure through to the day after the revolution, to have completion. And so what does it mean? It's not necessarily that he will stay leader after that, but that he will complete, and maybe he even will want to retire or to do something else. And what he's doing is going to stand the test of time. Okay? So pay closer attention to Gideon van Meijeren, okay? Because this is affecting the whole world. Resisting the WHO, affecting the whole world. What he is doing will be studied in books, in history, but also in cults, and you want to have the access to this information now. I don't know. I'm just in the beginning of watching like the 9 hours trial. I will try to translate, from what I understand, as much as I can. But yes, it's in Dutch, I know. And it's not too much translation because all eyes on, kind of like the right wing and the government and so on. But I do want us to pay attention. June 6th, I think, is the elections in Netherlands. So this is the kind of person who could get people to vote where they wouldn't vote otherwise. And his rising star, I do predict the big breakthrough is not necessarily going to be right now for him, but definitely 2025, 2026. I predict that is going to have tremendous breakthrough, okay, because he's moving towards Rahu. That's ruled by Jupiter, that's ruled by this 18 degrees in Taurus, with his Venus in Cancer. So he will try to bring the issue of ritual abuse and medical welfare and the connection between the two, for what you think is medicine and is not. So this is, but again, it's not about leaving the job only to him. It's about us, we the people, talking, raising, not complying, not consenting, but also, it's not just to talk about our no. What is our yes? What do we want for the day after the revolution? Okay, I would not have survived the Me Too if not for thinking constantly the day after the revolution. So I took pleasure culture, so I tried the things, so I took astrology, so I took aromatherapy, okay, and then I was able to make contributions. So right now I'm in conflict with this generation, older generation, over sexual matters, but they didn't have this knowledge. Okay, so I don't just think about what I rebel, but what is the day after the revolution? How do I see the day after the revolution? I want you to think about this. What is the day after the revolution for you? Because we continue on living, and you want to make sure that you live a good life and you don't have to perpetuate crisis in order to enjoy life. So another attention I have is on this Saturn-Neptune applying conjunction. It's a little bit of a wide orb, but it's still in orb. And this is again in Capricorn. This man was born around the fall of the communist regimes. If I pay attention to the difference between Capricorn and Aries, when Saturn and Neptune are going to conjunct again, Aries is more about the individualism, and we are going to have a change of a structure here. So the collapse of capitalist society, individuated society, dissolution of that. Whereas the Capricorn was a dissolution of a structure, a formal structure that was all idyllic, which was the communist structure, but inside was there was a devaluation of the communist structure and dissolution of that structure. Saturn Neptune is very associated with communist regimes, so with Russia and so on. But in Aries, it's going to be around identity, individuation. I think what Julian Assange is doing, which with WikiLeaks, which is exposing the war crimes of the West, is going to create a devaluation of like the West and the Western Union as kind of like an idyllic, non-oppressive situations. So with this Saturn Neptune, his job, okay, what his job is to do is to collapse structure, to dissolve structure. What structure? In this case, the structure that is kind of like a communistic, but it's the structure, he doesn't resist the welfare state, not at all even, but actually the only reason that he is afraid of immigration is because there would be so many people that you couldn't preserve the welfare state, and who wants to preserve it. It's just like want immigration, but not so much so that you cannot contain it. In that way, he's in par with kind of the people who are wanting to limit immigration, to say, okay, if we are not able to support all that much immigrants or refugees. Another thing to pay attention to is with this aspect is that his job in life, his karma in life, is to dissolve old structures for old religions. So he can take it really as far as Hope Day. I don't know how it's funded. I need to take a look at this, but we know that even basically Rockefellers are cutting dividends to the church. And they funded WikiLeaks. So I addressed that, and it's important to pay attention to that. Addressed my funding too. I live in Israel, have welfare. So welfare, other than the fact that I made certain money and the interest compounded, but how it compounded by investments that I'm not exposed to, and it's basically owned by families like Rothschild and so on, because this Israel is owned by them. And these families, they cut dividends to the church. So Opday, okay, so I'm not free from this structure myself. And also, if we cannot have freedom when freedom is oppressive to people, so it's not about ableism. And we genuinely have an issue to tackle. Houston, we have a problem. Okay, but we need to discuss this, and the answer is not concentration camps and kill the disabled, or for me maybe to be killed in mercy killing, like I thought in the beginning. Yes, I was like, okay, I can't work, I can't this, I can't that. Well, maybe mercy killing. That's the next step. Okay, what's next? Mercy killing. Give me mercy killing, or give me studies. But it's. We need to understand that there is more than enough resources, and so none of us has to die because they don't have access to resources. So, yeah. As for personal planets, for Pluto, Pluto is sextile in Neptune. It's not sextile in this Saturn. Pluto Scorpio, 10 degrees Scorpio. He will be having his Pluto square. My God, he's young. It's not that young. It's like 4 years younger than me, but Pluto moves so fast in Scorpio that it looks like he's a decade younger. But no. Pluto, 10 degrees Scorpio, retrograde. What I like about Pluto retrograde, Pluto is about power and finding your power. As a fellow Pluto retrograde, I have 0 degrees Scorpio. I'm going through my Pluto square now. And he has a decade before his Pluto square. You see? 4 years apart, but he has a decade. Why? Because Pluto would be moving slower in Aquarius. It takes 20 years than it is in Scorpio. So I'm having my Pluto square now, but I'm just 40, and he will be having Pluto square in 10 years. So Pluto retrograde, it means that you switch and change approaches to power. It's kind of living like a couple of lifetimes in one life from the vantage point of evolutionary astrology. And so again, this is a man who has been exploring the themes of power and also in relation to sexuality. With Mars in Pisces, rituals, so ritual, sexuality, ritual. So this is the person that can go from like, okay, let's study about Tantra, and then what is this Luciferian thing? Oh fuck, they fuck children. No, that's not useful. What do they think it does? No, okay? And then go and actually do something about it, go and actually act on it. But Pluto is not doing very much in the chart, it just exists there, sextiles Neptune, and affects his kind of karmic lineage. He has gone through Saturn square Pluto during the Saturn Uranus square, which is important, and this was the time for COVID. Saturn was squaring his Pluto by transit during the time, I think, of Ukraine war, and this is a tremendous change. We had to give up certain parts of the structure, part of the worldview, face fears, become free from these fears. And now Pluto, okay, is going to Aquarius. So unlike me, where I have Saturn in Scorpio and I'm headed for, when he will be going to his Pluto square, I will have my Pluto square Saturn in transit. Okay, the giant Corvan out. But he is safe from that and not too concerning, okay? The hard thing that he went through when Saturn was crossing Pluto, whatever it was, is through with that, released him from fears, from fundamental fears, and pushed him forward, preparing him for his role kind of like in 2025, 2026, where his role is basically to intercept 2030. Okay, so what I was bugging one leader about, hey, there's this guy doing that, let's go see what it does. And I think it's what he's doing so far. Yes, Sun square Mars. His Sun is in Gemini, 5 degrees Gemini, and she's squaring Mars. This creates for a person, as a fellow Sun opposition, Mars in the natal chart, this creates for a person where his actions and his own shine are in crisis point. Okay, I'll give it for my chart. I have Sun in Taurus. What does Sun in Taurus want? Life on a mega yacht and some good food and some good drinks. What does Mars want? To dismantle the 9 millennia pedophilia cult. Okay. Yes, it shouldn't be even an issue. It should have been done 9 millennia ago, but that's life, okay? And so with the square, was Sun in Gemini. What does Sun in Gemini want? Sun in Gemini can be the devil advocate. Sun in Gemini is Groucho Marx. If you don't like my opinions, I have other opinions. He just wants to be playful, to experiment, and so on. Mars in Pisces, it's the same element, it's the same modality. It's mutable, but Mars in Pisces, if I give you, okay, I give you example for Mars in Pisces. I don't have Mars in Pisces. I give you example for something that happened to me today. It was a very hot day, and I said I must travel, and then I was taking the inner bus, and then there was an old man next to me, and the driver did not let him in. So I went with my hand and I knocked on the door, the closed door of the bus. He started driving. I'm walking after him. What the F am I doing? That's Mars in Pisces. With something to the point where, but then when he didn't stop, I was like, yeah, it's even better. And I told him it's even better that we're not on that bus because this is a crazy driver. So that's Mars in, okay, I don't have Mars in Pisces, but that's the kind of Mars in Pisces where it's like, will conflict there too. But I lost, okay, then it's probably even better. So whereas the Sun in Gemini is a lot more intellectual. Okay, so like let's test this argument, that argument, for the sake of enjoying the argument and finding out, exploring various ideas. Mars in Pisces, it is religious. Okay, it is fundamentalist, going, pushing forwards. And that can create a tension for when you just want to be playful and explore ideas, but your actions are quite, let's explore the idea of calling everybody to invoke the second. Okay, but in Dutch. So he did it from the parliament. He deserves, if way more respect. I'm taking my privilege of being shadow banned. He's not shadow banned. So he's in the parliament. So he deserves, I bow. I take my hat off, really. It's, from the Gemini Sun, it's kind of like, hey, let's play with that idea. For the Mars, it's like, yeah, to take that action. And of course, this put him in a situation where he had to stand to 9 hours of trial. So it's a constant tension where the playful Sun in Gemini, extremist, fundamentalist Mars in Pisces, that can do good things, yes? But is definitely taking that idea far. So the good things come out of it, but it is a bit risky. What more can I say about this chart? Well, he has Lilith in Virgo. He recently had Lilith return. She's not doing very much in that. She's opposing Mars. So, I don't know. One thing, one scandal, because everybody has a scandal, was where, it's interesting, he had issues with cars. I don't know. It's the Venus Chiron, maybe, for the driving license and this and that. Which also I relate. I don't have driving license because people drive crazy and I'm not with the bureaucracy of them. But another thing was something he said. He was, to his point of view, was joking in a WhatsApp group and all about racism, and it was taken seriously. So he had, I think, sister that's dating a black man, and then somebody at the group was asking, what would you respond if, I don't know, if your friend, your sister, your daughter married a black man? He said, never, hell no. And perhaps it's true that he was, I don't know him, yes, it's true that he was joking, but other people were like, oh my God, this is racist, this is this is that. He didn't get the joke. And that can happen with the Mercury Chiron, for when you have a joke and people don't get it genuinely so. So a saying that can undermine. And it's opposing Saturn. Saturn is the color skin, so it's also the skin color. The color is black, so black skin. So that can be the issue. While he himself is basically turning, dissolving of the structure in favor of people, okay, regardless of the bloodline, because in the 2030 is a eugenics, and also ritual abuse is a eugenics. It's they take the people by the bloodline and they try to mix with the bloodlines, and they basically degenerate the race. But from their point of view, like, you do biodiversity, but you have to do it with willing consent. And so it's basically that the joke was against what he revolutionizes. And that can happen, yes, when you have this opposition of Mercury, Saturn. Venus, Saturn. Actually, when I see this chart, I believe him. At first, I thought, oh, well, maybe he's racist like the rest, but he's doing other things that are great. And now I see this and I was like, oh, he's got caught with the foot in the mouth, but it can be that he genuinely met like hell no, and it's kind of like being cynical and having this type of like a free communication where he's cynical and he was taken by word. And I actually, when I see this configure, this yoga, I tend to believe him even more so. So that is interesting. Okay, lot of fortune, 27 Scorpio. I'm not going to try to release from... Oh, sorry. Lot of fortune is not interesting. We don't have ascendant. That is... So, yes, that is what we have here. No. No. Birth chart. Yes. Want to do a little bit of transit. Birth chart. Transits. Let's see. Or why is it? Agree. Yeah. No, it's not. I lost it. Well, I think I'll let it slide it here. Let's do it from... We change the one and then calculate the chart. My profile. Yes. Well, something is going on. Okay, maybe something is just going on right now. No. Let's save changes. I don't know what it is. Anyway, so this is what I have to say about the chart. Saturn is about to go on his Rahu. Okay? So, his karmic... What the F happened? Astroseek. Is anything wrong? What do I have to see the current planets? Well, oh, it's Saturn's hour. That's why. Okay. Yes, Saturn is a degree away from his Rahu. So Saturn Rahu again. I don't know what would be like the verdict with what was going through him. So it's a kind of like a karmic test. He will have to be more mature, take responsibility. But this is just whatever happens, it prepares him for 2025, 2026. All of us should be looking, who are the people that resist 2030? What's happening? Check up on these people. Mediums, channelers, people who were assassinated. Check up on these people. People who are going through trials. Go, support these people. Speak up. Okay, I'm not saying like bomb their DM, but definitely raise awareness. Raise the public discourse. Show support. It's for us, you know, this is for us, and we don't have a lot of people that are so much so that they can bring all these topics to discourse, and we should cherish the ones who do. So yes, now is the time, because when we move on from the now, then the reset is planned for years. But we have to reclaim the reset. We have to think what we want for the day after the revolution. That's pretty much what I have to say. But the midheaven is with Ketu. Now I want to do something that I have been doing in Spirit of Matter. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, my public profile. Save changes. So my profile. Yes, things are changing here. Horoscopes from my database. And this is where I do check how am I in relation to the topic that I cover. So what you do a synastry with the topics that it can be a date, it can be a person. For some people, I know they do this with talismans as well. And this tells me where can I be biased. For example, give another example. There is name again with Peter de Vries, his Neptune on my Pluto opposing my Mercury and my Venus. And I said it's very likely I ideated this person, and then it took several years until I saw he defended Juris de Mink. Okay? So this means that I'm not seeing that in that point of communication, I'm not seeing everything clearly. And so now let's see if it's going to show us compatibility. Okay, is synastry. No, it's not showing me. I don't know what's on. I think that the system is wanting to take a break. So I'll let it have its break. And okay, this is Saturn's hour, but the ascendant is on my midheaven, so I will upload it now.